Fight commentary breakdowns here. Very special guest from Germany. This is David, does Kendo, and before that he's done a little kickboxing and savate, but Kendo is a great topic to talk about even by itself. So David, welcome.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks.
Tell me about your martial arts journey and also how did you end up in Germany? I think those are probably the two questions that are really interesting.
All right. When I was 18, I got into university, and I was looking at the university website to see what I could do, like hobby-wise. I knew I wanted to do something where I could compete, and I knew I wanted to do like a martial art because I wrestled in high school a little bit. And then when I was going through the website, I was like, they had like all the regular stuff. They had the Tang Sudo, they had karate. And I saw Kendo, and I was like, Kendo, that's the thing I saw in You Only Live Twice, the James Bond movie. It's like, this looks pretty cool. Let's do this. And I went to like the club's sort of marketplace thing at the beginning of the year, did that, and talked to the guys. They seemed really cool. So just got into that. And then Germany, I'll make a long story short. My dad's originally from Germany, so I sort of reverse immigrated after university for a 6-month project, but I fell in love and wife, kids,
Wow.
house.
There you go.
That's
So, American
short.
living in Germany.
Pretty much,
Well,
yeah.
technically you're German American now. You probably, because your dad was German, do you have a dual passport kind of thing situation?
Oh God, no. Well, actually, I was born in Canada,
Oh,
and
wow.
then we moved to the States, and I went back to Canada for university. And when I was going to come to Germany, I said to my dad, I said, "Can I get German citizenship?" And he said, "No, I gave up my German citizenship 2 weeks before you were born.
Oh, no.
So I get to do like the whole bureaucratic
Yeah.
bullshit thing for years and years. But as long as you have like a job here and a company that vouches for you, you're pretty
Oh,
good."
that's
So
good. That's good. So yeah, you'll get it then. That's great. Tell me about your first class in Kendo. What was it like? Because I've never taken a Kendo class, so I don't know like what you guys do. Do you guys start with warm-ups, then drills, then sparring?
when you start off, like, everybody wears a dark blue gi, right? But when you start in Kendo, we used to call them the white shirts. Okay, so you're wearing like your t-shirt and sweatpants, okay?
Uh-huh.
And they lend you a shinai, which is the bamboo sword.
Uh-huh.
And then you do suburi, like sort of like your drills. And you have a guys like they show you how to hit. And you start off and you're like hitting hard, like with a hammer. And then it's one of those things where the more you practice and the more you work at it, the more you realize you don't have to work that hard at it.
Ah.
Okay, just keep it nice and flowy, out of the hips. It's just like any martial art. All the power's in your hips. Use your body, not just your arms. And I think one thing I'll never forget about my first few weeks in Kendo was the blisters on my feet, because you're on a hardwood floor, you're barefoot, and you're doing like footwork the whole time. You're swinging the shinai, you're hitting hard. You have to stomp with a fumikomiyashi, and your foot just rips open.
Wow.
And then it rips in, and it was painful. But then you get your blisters, you get your calluses, nothing happens anymore. You just gotta get your spurs.
Yeah.
So
Wow. So, besides learning to chill out with the swinging, use your hips, getting the blisters, what are some other things that you quickly picked up that really helped you kind of progress?
philosophically, it was most definitely what my first sensei told us, was that all of the etiquette is for everyone else.
Oh.
So you have a lot of very strict etiquette in Kendo called Reiho. Like you bow to the dojo when you come in. Okay, you start off by meditating all together to seal out the outside world, and you focus only on your training for those 2 hours. That's where you are. That's what you're doing. When you're taking off your equipment or putting it on, you make sure you're not throwing the laces all over the place. Yeah, you have to keep it very controlled.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to hit the guy next to you. Okay? When you're practicing, still watch out that there's someone, do exactly as you're told. Because if you don't, you're either going to get hit in the head from the side or you're going to hurt someone else.
Yeah.
Okay? So basically, just pay attention and just remember you're not alone. There's other people around you, and that today that's even more important.
Yeah.
So that was definitely something I learned the most. And also, when you fight someone, you're in that fight, and then it's over. No matter how it went, you rotate, you get your next opponent or your next training partner, and that's a different fight. That's a different situation.
Wow.
You don't worry that you just lost a bout. You're not celebrating you just won one, because now this is a different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that definitely is after my parents, I'd say it's probably one of the biggest influences in my life.
Wow. Yeah, the mindfulness training, man, it's powerful. And yeah, that's I love the taking on opponents one after another. How many would you rotate? Would it be like a set time limit, or would it be kind of like the set number of opponents?
After like a typical training, you have your warm up first. You have your warm up, then you line up and you meditate for maybe a half a minute, 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Suit up, put your armor on, line up. You do your drills for at least an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got like the last half hour of training is usually just sparring. And then you're going to spar against at least, figure 30, 35 minutes, 2 minutes apiece. You're going to have like 15 different, maybe 10 different opponents.
Mm-hmm.
And then whenever the trainer, sort of bangs the shinai on the ground, the handle, not the tip, always the handle, to say rotate again. And then another 2-3 minutes with the next opponent. So at least 10 people.
Wow.
10 bouts, let's say.
Wow, that's awesome training. So, you started Kendo in college, and then when you graduated college, did you continue it, or did you kind of like do it on your own? What was the process like transitioning out of college?
That was different because everybody was like 20 years old. Everybody was a student moving around a lot. And then I moved to Düsseldorf in Germany, and I joined a club where like regular people were there. It wasn't just like 20-year-old guys anymore, or 20-year-old people. Because Kendo is also co-ed, right? Like some tournaments it's just mixed. You fight women, you fight men, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was different because you're not in a university club anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're with people who like can't go out right after practice, or they don't have like the athletic sort of like drive. We did push-ups and sit-ups and stomach exercises at university, and then coming here it was just Kendo training, right? There was no extra fitness component or anything. A little less bite maybe, but a lot more mindfulness, a lot more responsibility, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I see.
I definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I did continue it when I moved over here.
Mm-hmm. Did you find that the kickboxing and savate training you did helped your Kendo, or did the Kendo help your kickboxing and savate?
I started that after Kendo, actually. Like I'd been doing Kendo for 10 years when I decided to take up a little bit of savate. That totally helped my savate because after maybe like 6 weeks of savate training, I got to do my first sparring session with the trainer. And he's looking at me, he's like, damn, you put a lot of pressure on me. Like, I was like, whatever. But from Kendo, like, you learn, like, I didn't even know I learned it, but you've got like this presence. And it's sort of like, I could like, put pressure on him just by standing there.
Yeah.
Just, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is. So what is a difference between Kendo and Kenjutsu? Because I've seen like that kind of title on videos, and there seems to be a lot of debate between some people like, no, Kenjutsu is a little more legit than Kendo. What is your sort of take on all that?
All right. I think a good comparison would probably be between MMA and Krav Maga. Okay, you've got your Kenjutsu, which is a complete sword fighting style. Okay, which I know very little of, unfortunately, no more than what I've seen on like YouTube videos and documentaries. Whereas Kendo's a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, there's the guy, the Ramsey Dewey. He does like all these like martial arts, sort of like a bit more philosophical. He's a YouTuber too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he says like jiu-jitsu is a game. It's a sport. You're fighting, but it's not like a fight situation, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They used to joke around that we do Shinai-Do and not Kendo, because Kendo is the way of the sword, and we do the way of the Shinai.
Mm.
Is Kenjutsu more legit? You put a Kenjutsu fighter in a ring with a Kendoka, Kendoka's going to win, but you put them in a bamboo forest with katana. I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm. I see. Oh, that's an interesting comparison. I never thought about it that way, but that's have you so now you're in Germany, is Kendo big in Germany, or is it kind of like a pretty niche because there's more HEMA or something like that?
Kendo's not big in Germany at all, unfortunately. Very much a niche martial art, very much Germans are heavily into judo and like jujutsu, which is a German system that incorporates some Wing Chun and some karate techniques, like German police do it.
Ooh. What is it called again?
Jujutsu.
Oh.
And Germans are heavily into boxing too.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the line, kickboxing. MMA is still illegal here, but no, Kendo is definitely a niche thing.
Dude, I didn't know MMA was illegal. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know how New York for a while, New York State just like banned MMA competitions, and like people were like, "What? New York?" But it's like, I guess Germany's still like that, dude. They're like, MMA too violent or whatever excuse. Wow.
I mean, there's still MMA gyms and there's a lot of amateur stuff, but they're not going to go pro yet.
Wow.
I don't think.
That is fascinating, bro. But
I guess all amateur stuff.
I guess you just you stick with what you have. So I guess if MMA is kind of like it's impossible to go pro in MMA, then people do other stuff like, you know, judo, jiu-jitsu, boxing, stuff like that. Wow.
My son wrestles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How big is wrestling in Germany?
Not big either. Not big either. Because they don't have like university, like collegiate sports programs here, you know?
Oh.
It's all club based.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a really good club here in Bonn where I live. My son's in the club. He's got a really good trainer. So, yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. What made you decide to get into kickboxing and savate and all that?
I saw that there used to be a show on Discovery Channel called Fight Quest.
Yes, I love that show.
Oh, God, classic. So much better than Human Weapon. But anyway, you can cut that part out. And I liked the savate episode. I'm French-Canadian. And then, like, my brother said he was taking Krav Maga. And I thought, you know, why don't I check out, like, see if there's a savate thing near here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, savate seemed to be like a pretty complete system as well. Got more into it, realized it wasn't that. It was very much like kickboxing, except you're only allowed to hit with the foot. Mm-hmm. You can't use your shin, you can't use your knee. So your kicks are really fast, but not necessarily effective.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, you're quick. You know, you learn speed in savate, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But then the trainer was super cool in Cologne, and then he, I don't know, like he lost his venue, and then things sort of started going downhill from there. And then I started taking kickboxing, just like straight up kickboxing here in Bonn.
Mm-hmm. I see. So it looks like, I mean, everyone's martial arts journey is different, and yours is super cool that you like you started with wrestling, and then you really got into a weapon space, and now you're back into like the standard striking. It's so after this whole craziness blows over, do you think you'll continue with what you have? Do you think you'll do more martial arts? What is your plan?
Definitely to keep going for what I have.
Mm-hmm.
I was planning to get my fourth Dan this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I'm going for next year. Most definitely. I'm going to be 40 this year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was my goal. But whatever, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I had an injury September too, and that stopped me from training for like 6 months.
Mm.
And then when I was ready to get jumped back in, COVID came. So
Mm. Was that
um,
injury from a savate or was it from Kendo?
uh, combination. I got a heel spur, like caused by plantar fasciitis in my left foot.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I would have never
um,
thought about that, but yeah,
that
those things
happens
can
when
do
you do too
stuff,
much
man.
stuff, like your feet are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And when orthopedic said, "Look, you keep training, but your fascia are going to snap." I said, "No, I'll wait." But no, it's better now, and I'm ready to go. Definitely ready to go.
Wow. Wow. Um, and your son does wrestling. Is he gonna do other things too in the future?
I mean, he's 10 years old. That's up to him.
Mm-hmm.
He'll stick with wrestling. I think wrestling is really good to get a good base, like to really learn how to use your body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a definite like full body workout. So we're gonna leave him there for now. But if he decides he wants to do something else, like he likes to play with my punching bag there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who knows? You
Yeah.
know.
Exactly. Wow. Um, where do you think the future of kendo and like this type of martial art is going to be in Germany? Do you think it's going to get more popular? Do you think HEMA and other stuff is going to be more popular? What do you think about that?
Don't know much about HEMA. It's kind of cool to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's really, really niche. Um, Personally, I'm not convinced that they're effective styles, the HEMA
Mm-hmm.
styles. They move their arms and then their feet, whereas we move our feet and then our arms,
Mm-hmm.
at least ideally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a much better way to go. Like a kendo strike is very impressive when it's
Mm-hmm.
coming straight at you. Will kendo become more popular? I don't think so, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll stay niche. I think it'll stay a little more exclusive. The
Mm-hmm.
equipment is very expensive. Um, so you have to have a certain like income level, for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
But you could get used stuff too. That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to stay, I think, where it is. Plus, the International Kendo Federation refuses to go Olympic. They don't want to.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah, yeah, because they say if they go Olympic, if they become too popular, Kendo will lose the etiquette, the spirit, the philosophical side, like judo has. Yeah, judo has
Mm-hmm.
essentially become like it's just a pure sport, right? There's no, or very little, at least from what I've heard from friends of mine, little etiquette anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, like on Kendo, if you were to celebrate your victory at a tournament, they would right on the right in the ring, you beat your dude, your opponent, you're like, yeah, you would be disqualified.
Wow.
You cannot do that. You keep straight face. You go in Sonkyo. You thank him. You go back. You bow. You go off the ring. You shake hands. Then you go to your buddies, and then you start to cheer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So I
Yeah.
think Kendo is going to stay niche, and I think it's okay.
Yeah, I like that because for a while, before I decided to, learn more about MMA, my impression of MMA was exactly like what you described. Those people, they just knocked the guy out. Now they're celebrating, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, wow, that seems so wrong. And for a while, I just
Yeah.
couldn't get in. I couldn't get past that. I see exactly what you mean. Like, if you make a sport more popular, make it more kind of just about the competition, just about the fighting or whatever. You're going to get more of that. And I guess if someone wants their martial art to really be about the respect part or about the etiquette part or about the mindfulness part, that kind of will totally happen. So definitely, I see where you're going. And it took me a while. Even now when I watch MMA, I don't watch it for the ending, for the KOs or whatever. I watch it to look at the skills. And whenever a fighter gets hurt, I cringe, and I almost like don't want to watch for like 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, every commentator, everybody I've spoken to that's done real like MMA or boxing or kickboxing competitively, they said it's no fun knocking a person out.
Yeah.
You don't, if you feel good if you did that, you know, and there's a huge difference, I think, between fighting to win and fighting to beat the other guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can be happy that you won, but you should never be happy the other guy lost.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Wow. Dude, that was a great little message, like a great ending message. Like, in my conversation with Icy Mike, we talked about it too. Like, just ultimately, the martial arts journey, it's all about yourself, right? Don't focus too much on other people. And I think from the etiquette in Kendo, it probably really instills that. Don't be like, oh, the other person's doing this, that. Oh, the other person deserves or doesn't deserve this or that. So just do it. Do you and make yourself good. And I think that's really reflected in the Kendo, at least the Kendo training that you've had.
I've been lucky, I'll be honest. Yeah.
Dave, you met your wife when you did Kendo, right?
Yeah, exactly. When I moved to Germany in 2002, I got here in July and I started training in September. I had to get settled in. Mm-hmm. And then I think she came and joined the same club in October. Mm-hmm. And when I saw her at practice, I went into the gym to put some stuff down that I had for the club. And then I walked back out and I looked at her. I'm like, oh, she's cute. I'll take her. And that was, what are we now, 2020? That was 18 years ago.
Uh-huh. Tell me about training with someone you like. Was it hard? Was it not hard at all?
No. She's a pro. She's really got we both, if we were sparring with each other, just training stuff, we trained. I have a higher rank than her in Kendo. Mm-hmm. So if I was the highest ranking member at practice that night, then I would run practice. Mm. And there's never been any kind of oh, you did this to me, how could you, or whatever. It's that's the one frame, and this is, privately is a different one.
Yeah.
So,
and I think with martial arts that have a lot more etiquette, it kind of takes away a lot of potential misunderstandings because there's so much etiquette dictating what is going on in practice. Yeah. And it's something I've never thought about because, I've most of the martial arts I've done, there's not that much etiquette. I've done some American Kempo. American Kempo has a little bit of etiquette, but not as much as what it looks like Kendo does. So it's that's so interesting. I never thought about that. When you want to avoid kind of male-female drama, which of course will occur no matter what, but if you want to avoid a lot of it, etiquette actually really helps. It's really interesting.
Oh God, I started at a university club. I could tell you stories, but no, and what helps with Kendo too is that you've got this mask on. You can sort of see the face, but when you're boxing, it's personal.
Yeah.
This is your fist in someone's face, right?
Yeah.
But Kendo, you're a meter and a half. You're 4 or 5 feet away almost, and you're just tapping the head or hitting the body, whatever. There's a lot more distance involved.
Yeah. So. Really random side note. There's this movie with Gong Li in it. Gong Li's a pretty famous Chinese actress. Yeah. I think she does a little bit of Kendo. It's unfortunately the movie is called Hannibal Rising, so it's about Hannibal. But
okay, sure.
She does Kendo with Hannibal, or some kind of swordplay, and you can tell they're kind of flirting. So I always find it funny that with certain martial arts, flirting can be like you can kind of flirt while you spar with the girl. I know with Kendo it probably is a little harder because you got the mask on. With other martial arts, you kind of flirt, you kind of smile at each other and stuff. Just me. I don't. I'm not saying I do that to every girl I spar with, but certain times there's cute girls. You can tell she likes you too. You're just kind of like having fun, just like sparring.
Yeah. No, I mean more difficult in Kendo because it's tough to see the eyes.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, you use like facial cues to see when they're going to attack, whatever. Yeah. But honestly, like most of the women I've fought with are like poisonous vipers. Basically, they're really fast.
Wow.
And Kendo's not about strength; it's about like getting in there because it doesn't take much to cut someone's hand off, with a katana. So you don't need strength.
Yeah.
It's good if you can like hip into someone, whatever, like body check them. But if you're fast, you get the point.
Yeah. Wow.
So. Yeah.
When did you tell your wife? When did you ask her on a date or tell her you like her? When first you were training with her?
I think it was maybe in like November. Yeah, because it was getting colder. Mm-hmm. And we lived in Düsseldorf, and we decided to go to Cologne one night to train.
Wow.
Which was like where the highest ranking teacher was in Cologne. Mm-hmm. And was after that practice I made my first move, failed. Mm. Luckily she still agreed to see me again, and then didn't fail again. So
You see, guys, learn that lesson from Dave, man. Like all of us, it's just like learning a martial art. You're not gonna get the move the first time, usually. So it's a good like life lesson. Martial arts translates to that, man. You're not gonna get every single move the first time. So like, including with dates and like relationships and stuff like that.
Perseverance, man.
Yeah, perseverance. First of all, congrats. It's awesome that like you seem to have met a lot of cool people with Kendo. The final question I have with kind of like classes is the male-female ratio usually skewed towards guys, or is it kind of even?
Depends where you are. I think it's almost, I mean, it's going to be almost everywhere. It's going to be more guys. Mm-hmm. In Germany, actually, there was far more men fighting in tournaments than women, to the point that the national championships didn't have a women's tournament, like a dedicated women's tournament in the teams, until 11 or 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe a little more, but I think that's about the right time. And and even then it was like, okay, we'll have, instead of a 5-person team, we'll have like 3-person teams, and it won't be the women's championship, it'll be the women's teams tournament, but national tournament. And then eventually, like it's they've grown now in Germany, they've got more of a base, and now it's, but yeah, there's always going to be more guys, I think, doing it than women.
Makes sense.
There's a related martial art called naginata.
Okay.
Where for one reason or another, it's like it simulates the long samurai spear. Mm-hmm. And you can also hit the leg, so you wear shin guards. For whatever reason, there's more women doing that than men, I think. But.
Yeah, I've seen clips of women doing naginata. So, like you said, it seems like somehow that draws women more, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe I need to interview someone who does the naginata type of relative.
I wish I knew someone, but unfortunately I don't know anybody. Sorry.
I also see jump rope behind you, which is awesome. So jump rope is part of your training curriculum too. Definitely.
Keeps you on your toes. Good core workout. You got to keep your shoulders nice and loose.
Yeah.
Definitely jumping rope. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I have a jump rope too, but I haven't used it in 2 weeks. Full disclosure.
Dude. No, I mean, especially now with the quarantine. I mean, I've got like sort of a home gym, like very rudimentary thing set up in my basement. Yeah. I'm down here almost every night because can't do anything else, Exactly. But it's a lot less interesting, I think, than going out and training with other people. You realize at one point you're just counting like the whole time.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
But
I wanted to show you something funny since we're talking about blades and stuff. So I was trying to do something with a box cutter the other day, and I realized like I don't want to do stuff again with the boxer without some protection, so I ordered some cut resistant sleeve, not sleeves, of gloves.
Work?
So it works.
Work?
I was testing it like a dumb person. I was like this. It does work. So
you can do it on a cutting board.
Yeah, of course. I got excited and I was like, oh. Yeah. I used to have Kevlar sleeves too. Like I made this joke on one of my videos, the Sistema one, where I was like, yeah, I wear chainmail. I don't wear chainmail, but I used to have Kevlar sleeves, and then when I had the sleeves, I'm like, well, this doesn't protect me if I'm making food. I'm not gonna cut my wrist accident. I'm gonna cut my hand. So like, eventually, it took me more than 2 years to finally get these. So now, if I make food, I'm gonna wear these. At least it prevents me from accidentally slicing up my hand.
All right. Can you wash those?
Yes. I think you can. You could probably machine wash them in cold. Or probably just like hand wash them is probably better, because if you machine wash them in cold, they'll wear way faster. What I find interesting about these, and it was the same with the Kevlar sleeves I had, was that the area in between the fingers seems to be weak, so I wouldn't trust the knife going here. But
no.
Yeah. Is armor legal? Like, can you go around wearing body armor in Germany?
Oh God, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. I know they have really strong, really strict weapons laws in Germany regarding even pocket knives with a lockback blade. If the blade's too long, you can't carry it. You're allowed to buy them and bring them home, but you're not allowed to carry them around.
I see.
Obviously, stuff like brass knuckles you can't carry around. Those extendable batons, you have to have a conceal and carry permit for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, you can't. Body armor, no idea. I don't think so.
It sounds like Germany tends to be a safer place than America, right? So very few people need to wear body armor. Is that kind of like a mistaken assumption about Germany?
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I won't make any kind of political statements. But no, I've never, honestly, that is the first time I've ever even thought about wearing body armor. Is that a thing now? Because I grew up in the States.
I'm just curious. I was searching up N95 masks, and you can't buy them in most places. Right? Like on Amazon, they're prioritized to get shipped to hospitals. So then I was like, what places could sell? And of course, there's a million body armor prepper websites in America. It's amazing if you really go on the internet how many prepper, survivalist, body armor, gun websites there are in America. So of course, from there I could find masks. But that's what sparked kind of me thinking about other countries. Do they have all these firearms websites and stuff like that? So totally a random tangent, but it's just something interesting. I think in America, so much of what we have is taken for granted. But you go to China, for example, where my relatives are, you definitely can't even ever see a gun unless a police officer has it, right? There's no way anyone can have a gun in China. And I know in most countries the gun laws are much more strict. So it's just really interesting to see differences in how people treat weapons and all that. And then, there's that, it's a myth, I believe, but people who get black belts in martial arts have to register their hands, right? I don't think that's true, but I think the misconception or the assumption it's based on is if you're trained, really trained in martial arts, and you do get into some kind of fight and you hurt the guy, I think your martial arts training can factor in on if you do get prosecuted. I believe
I've seen stuff like that on TV. I think it depends how far you take it.
Yeah.
In real life, there was a thing like that on Ally McBeal. They were I don't know if you're probably too young.
Callista Flockhart, I remember that.
All right, cool. Yeah, good. Her roommate Renee was there's this dude who was getting too handsy on a date, and she I don't know, spinning back kicked him in the face or something, and then he got a neck brace, and he sued her because she knows how to kickbox, but it was just a Taibo class they were doing or something. Anyway, No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, register your hands as lethal weapons.
Yeah, exactly. Because another reason I'm asking that is, since you do kendo, right? Like if God forbid something ever happens, like you get into a fight where you have to defend yourself, and then let's say you hurt the guy, would you doing kendo factor in the police sort of deciding whether you were in the right or wrong? But I guess it wouldn't if the guy attacks you. I mean, if he attacks you, he attacks you.
If there was a stick lying around, it'd be a factor because I could theoretically pick it up and then use it.
Yeah.
But kendo, unfortunately, I'm going to go out on a limb here. It's pretty useless, except for like that mentality that you're in a fight situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like we talked about last time, it's not really a fight; it's a game, isn't it?
Yeah.
But would that factor in? I think it depends on who does how much damage to whom.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's
no mutual combat laws in Germany, right? Not like in some states in America where, like, if you agree and you do it in a safe place, and then it's like no private property's damaged, then you can actually just have a real fight. Some states have that in America. I don't think Germany has that, right?
No idea. No idea. I know that like even if you're just training, like you just work out at your friend's house, and you get hurt and you're using like his equipment in his house, he or she could theoretically be liable because it's not a licensed gym. It's not like on the up and up. There's no insurance. Germans are huge. They're really big on insurance. I think they like invented it back in the Middle Ages.
Nice.
Yeah, but one thing that you mentioned just now, I think, just to go sort of into like the hypocrisy, is that Germany's got really strict laws on weapons, but they're also like the world's second largest exporter and manufacturer of weapons. Heckler and Koch, Sig Sauer. What else? Rheinmetall makes like the Tiger tank. And the Leopard that they export all over the place. Oh yeah, they make big money on weapons, but inside the country there's like you said, very strict laws.
So interesting. It's like China, for example. Back in the day in 2016, I got contacted by DJI, that big drone company. They're Chinese, but like when we think of DJI, they're not selling it to Chinese people per se. They're selling it to high-end kind of like, people who like drones or people who travel or people who film make here. Yeah. So it's like the same thing. It's like a lot of the stuff produced by a country, it's not even for the internal domestic consumption. And it's like interesting. It shows how connected the economy is, but it also shows what if whatever countries you're exporting one day decide to not buy it anymore, right? You kind of put your economy in a little bit of kind of dependence, but from the standpoint of free trade, that's good. That guarantees countries kind of collaborate with each other instead of like try to do bad stuff to each other again.
Yeah, but now then you're in a situation like now where if all the production is in China, and then China has to shut down. Well, what happens now?
Exactly.
Okay, everybody starts running around crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work. A lot of people have to do a lot of work, myself included, to try to secure supply chains and whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But you were saying too about things we take for granted. I saw your post on YouTube about you're going to maybe get an interview with the Chinese MMA fighter, and I'm going to butcher his name, so help me out.
Xu Xiaodong.
Sorry?
Yeah, Xu Xiaodong.
Thangu. Yes, exactly. Xu Xiaodong.
Yeah.
And then, I read the post. I was like, "Holy God, he can't even use Skype."
Yeah, he can't use Skype. It's crazy.
You got to try to use some kind of other workaround to try to get. And it's not system relevant. The interview, it's not political. It's a fighter who's calling these dudes out for basically, being fake masters. I mean, masters in their own arts, whatever. But
exactly.
Calling out the art.
It's like. In America, in the Western world, we definitely take a lot for granted. I've, some calls have internet problems, but if you really want to have internet problems, call any country in Africa. It doesn't matter if it's like a very developed country like Nigeria or South Africa. You're still going to get bandwidth problems. It's crazy. It's just like you realize how much we take for granted here. And with martial arts training, too. Like, in many Western countries, because there's so much immigration, it's like we have a lot of great martial arts. But in other countries, if they don't have as much, like, perspective, sometimes maybe there's only Bullshido. And that's what a viewer that I interviewed from India told me. It's like, I mean, the majority of martial art dojos here are Bullshido because those are the only ones that make money. And I'm like, wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because India, too, they have like a lot of their own homegrown martial arts, right?
Yeah.
It's Kalari Payat.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a beautiful art. And it's really acrobatic, but it's got this like crazy physical training regimen that these guys got to be rock solid.
Yeah. And Kung Fu, most of the southern styles of Kung Fu came from that. So, which then means that a lot of karate styles and a lot of the Kempo styles, some of the Taekwondo styles, they all came from that. Which is like... And then, like, I'm asking him about it. He's like, yeah, most people don't even know about that, which is so sad. Yeah, exactly.
That's unfortunate.
It's kind of like some of the old kind of martial arts, even in probably the Wild West. A lot of that stuff is lost now. A lot of that, like, gun-toting stuff, a lot of the wrestling stuff. Probably very few people do that now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mystery to me why... Even old European fighting styles, because we had like catch wrestling and Lancaster wrestling styles and grappling, whatever. You look at old HEMA manuals, and there's grappling, there's boxing, there's fighting in there. The ancient Greeks had pancration, and it just disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
There was like little or no, physical culture for a while, and then for whatever reason in Asia it didn't disappear. I guess. China, the Shaolin monasteries, Japan would be the samurai that kept the traditions a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And in a way, maybe it was good that so much of Kung Fu got turned into a more dance type of performance thing, because maybe that was the only reason a lot of it was kept alive. Yeah. So, like, if it was too lethal or too combat-oriented, maybe it's incentive for the ruling class or whatever government to be like, okay, you guys tone it down a little, or like, hey, forget about it. Here's jobs for you guys so you guys don't practice that. Yeah. Exactly. Like, for example, Kendo. If Kendo kept, like, a lot of the lethality and maybe, like, trained in a different way, and it looked less, like you said, like, more like a competition and more like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to cut off a head or something like that, then maybe Kendo would have been suppressed too. Like, if there was like people watching Kendo, there's very little etiquette. It was like, okay, warm up, all right, let's just start sparring. Maybe it would have been regulated too in a different way.
Yeah, maybe they regulated themselves. I mean, that's how it grew in the beginning. It's like former samurai that had to sort of dumb it down. To make it more palatable, okay, we won't use wooden swords and no armor. We'll put this padding on, and so you have your gloves and your helmets. Like, all right, nobody's getting brained anymore. And then they toned it down to make it more, like you said, more palatable.
Yeah, it's like you either have to tone it down to make it more palatable, or you have to. The other unfortunate extreme is you just add so much BS into it that it becomes like nothing. It just becomes like, I just want my students to keep learning because I'm telling them, I'm convincing them they got to learn more to be able to have to fight, right? I think some styles become like that. So
But I mean, early on in Kendo too, you figure out that it's not a destination, right? It's always a journey. Like the whole topic we're doing now is journey of martial arts. But or you could look at the other extreme, like boxing. You could argue that bare knuckle boxing was less dangerous than boxing with the gloves today because it's not protecting the other dude's head; it's protecting your hand.
Your hands,
and it's added weight, and it's like, And they had fewer headshots back then. They had more body shots. Matches would go on.
They stood with a different stance because it's you definitely don't want to. You don't want to punch the wrong part of the head, and also as the receiving person, it hurts much more to get a fist to the head. So it's like to prevent Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting how boxing changed once they added gloves, and then back in the day, if you look at even classic boxing with gloves, there was much more clinch work and dirty boxing, and then they kind of took a lot of that out. So now, people don't fight. People clinch to get separated, right? When you're getting pressure, now you clinch. Yeah. It's not like, okay, I'm going to clinch. Clinch is part of fighting, which is like, it makes boxing boxing's still very enjoyable, but like you look at classic boxing, you're like, wow, it was even more kind of like simulating real combat than what boxing is now.
Yeah.
The other thing, since I unfortunately mentioned Hannibal Rising, let's talk about legit martial arts movies, because Hannibal Rising is it's not even a legit horror movie, it's just a bad movie. And I only watched it because, the Hannibal series is pretty cool, right? But this one didn't have Anthony Hopkins, unfortunately. But what were some of your martial arts movies you liked growing up? Did you watch, like, swordplay movies, or was it...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me more.
Not just swordplay. Like, obviously, you're straight up the Bruce Lee films.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about last time, too. But do you remember... classic. American Ninja?
Yes, with Chris Farley, right? Or that's Beverly Hills Ninja?
Beverly Hills Ninja. No. The American Ninja series with Michael Dudikoff.
Oh.
So bad. A couple of years ago, American Ninja 3 was on TV, and I was home alone, and I sat down and I watched it, and it was just... It doesn't hold up 20 years or 30 years later. But those were pretty cool.
Dude, I'm gonna have to watch this. I've not seen this before.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah. American Ninja 1 is pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. What really got a lot of other people into Kendo was the Lord of the Rings movies when I was at university. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now you're asking, I can't even think of any more like sword movies. Well, obviously Conan, right? Conan the Barbarian. Growing up, I loved He-Man, Thundercats. I had toy swords coming out in my ears. Yeah. American Ninja is pretty bad. It's so bad, it's good. Trying to think. What else? That's all I got for you, unfortunately.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, growing up, because I did Kung Fu, I watched mostly Kung Fu movies, but of course most Kung Fu movies have a lot of swordplay in them, but it's like more kind of like dance type of swordplay. But
The Hunted with Christopher Lambert, Christophe Lambert.
Oh, The Hunted! Wow, you give me all these new movies to watch. It's awesome.
Yeah, with Joan Chen is in it too.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. She buys it pretty early on, unfortunately.
I see.
Spoiler.
Wow, these are like this is like you could call it like the days of like martial arts movies that we don't see anymore.
Oh yeah. Oh, and Rising Sun with Wesley Snipes and Sean Connery.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Right.
Not necessarily a classic like martial arts movie. There's a pretty cool with Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. He does a pretty cool sword fighting scene where he gets taken out, I think, by Yakuza.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Big conspiracy. It was very like 80s, late 80s, early 90s. The Japanese are bad. They're going to take over America. Yeah.
I almost watched one like that yesterday. I forgot which one it was, but I saw it on Amazon. I clicked into it, and then I saw the ratings were really bad, and I didn't watch it. But it was another one of those, like, ooh, the Japanese are going to take over America. A detective is investigating them, and there's, like, fight scenes and stuff like that.
Wait, was it Michael Douglas? Was Michael Douglas in it?
I don't think so, but it was that lady from Deep Space Nine, the really pretty one. Forgot her name, but she was in it.
Terry Farrell.
Yeah, she was in this movie. Yeah. So it's a pretty not known one, but I just remember seeing it. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know she could do action, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's why the reason she doesn't do martial arts action, because the movie got really low ratings.
Yeah. And of course, anime. Yeah.
Oh, so anime.
I watched what was it called? Ronin Warriors, I think was the English title. It was pretty bad. And of course, Rurouni Kenshin. That, which is just every Kendo-ka's sort of like favorite anime. We all know it. We've all seen it forwards, backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found the movie I was telling you about. It's called Red Sun Rising, and it has Don the Dragon Wilson in it, on top of Terry Farrell. So that's why I clicked into it. It's got Don the Dragon Wilson too, but apparently it's pretty bad. They're like, nope, don't watch it. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time with this.
There was one in the 80s with it's like a black kid is visited by the ghost of Bruce Lee, and he has to fight against like a local gangster called the Shogun of Harlem. It's like kung fu film meets blaxploitation.
Wow.
It was beautifully awful.
Shogun. I will look this up. I'm gonna find this.
What the hell is it called? The Shogun of Harlem. Hang on, I got this.
The Last Dragon.
Yeah, there it is.
Oh, I gotta see this one.
This one is
I'm gonna see if it's on Amazon. The
Classic.
Last Dragon.
classic.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That was fun.
one of the reasons why I couldn't, and just so you know, it looks. Oh, okay. Never mind. There's a book series called The Last Dragon, but it's fantasy. It's not this. It's not like a book based on it or something. One of the reasons growing up, I didn't watch as many kind of like Western, maybe you could say like swordplay movies. Was a lot of the choreography of that was so bad. I just don't know why. Like a lot of those Western movies, like the swords get tangled, right? And then like they go up close and look at each other. And me being kung fu trained, I'm like, where are your legs? Can't you kick each other? Stop only focusing on other upper body. Kick them, trip them. Like I would always get so frustrated. I'd be yelling at the screen, kick them, kick them, kick them. And like a lot of those, they would never kick. So it's like, what's like, and so I would have like I just wouldn't be able to stand a lot of these like more Western type of swordplay. But then once I discovered HEMA many years later, I'm like, wow, like you said earlier. There's so much good stuff in it. Like, if some of those choreographers just, like, learned from actual HEMA practitioners, the swordplay would have been so much better in a lot of these movies.
Yeah. Yeah, but actually, God, I hate it when they're doing this with the swords.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, you've got it also in Japanese samurai films as well, like the Jidaigeki, like historical dramas, and that doesn't work. That does not work. Yeah. The katana will chip. Yeah. Samurai Miyamoto Musashi, he would like fight duels with a piece of wood. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a great story of how like he was meant to meet another master on an island, and he woke up late that morning. He had to like row his boat there real quick. And he's like there, and he's like, shit, I forgot my sword. And he picks up the paddle. And the dude comes up and he like swings his sword, bang, bang, hits the guy in the head, cracks him, boom, he's dead, and he wins. He's like, all right, cool. The sword fighting would be like the tips would touch a little bit, and then you'd like try to parry, come in, and like you said, they'd like push the hands up, and elbow in, and then drive the sword in closer. Yeah. But a lot of HEMA people they'll get worked up about sword and sandal movies too. Yeah. Because. Yeah, they do the ting, 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 ting. It's like you're killing it.
Yeah, you're killing your blade. Yes. You keep doing that. You don't have a surface to cut anymore. No. Like I remember in the first time I realized the exact same thing you said. I did a little bit of sword when I was in kung fu, but of course that was not sparring. And then I watched. It was a funny thing. It was a Jet Li movie. And in the Jet Li movie, they were doing the ting, 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 but, in a more choreographed fashion. So it wasn't just like ting, ting. It was like they were actually trying to hit each other. And then there was a close-up of the swords, and you can tell the two of them actually went at it because the swords had all these, cuts in it. So I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, the blades are so damaged. If you guys really were to keep fighting and not, magically cut and then suddenly the sword's all new again because, they had to do that, you guys couldn't even cut each other. Because, you guys already spent the whole time damaging your own sword. There's no cutting surface.
Was Was that Hero?
It was Twin
fights
Dragons. Twin Dragons.
Okay, because there was another one with Jet Li where he and this one other guy, they fight for so long, they're like the season's changing, and their swords are visibly, they show the chips in the blades, and they're just wrecked. Yeah, but the only other time I can think of seeing that right now is in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, when Michelle Yeoh fights Zhang Ziyi, and she's got the Jade Destiny, and Michelle Yeoh just gets every other weapon that she has, and they keep just, of course, crumbling in front of the ultimate sword that is the Jade Destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
It's garbage. But,
exactly. It's so unfortunate too that with like you said, like the sword and sandal movies that have really bad choreography, and then a lot of the kung fu movies that have extra good like opera-esque choreography, it takes away a lot of the reality but also the elegance of like real sword fighting. It's so sad.
Yeah.
It's like until I started looking up how a lot of sword matches actually went, like because I watched all those movies growing up, I also thought that that's how sword fighting went. It was like, woo, boom, 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 whoa, and then you were like doing all these cool stances and everything. But like you said, like if you look at like how the samurai fought, it's like very, very focused. Probably one hit, the other person's dead. Like that's how it used to be. And even in Chinese cinema now, there's occasionally one or two good movies that show that. Like, I can think of 2 kung fu movies in the recent 5 years, and I think a lot of it, to Xu Xiaodong's credit, came out during the Xu Xiaodong time. We're talking about, like, what happened to Chinese kung fu, and in both of them, there was weapons involved. In one kung fu movie, the guy's kung fu form looked so ugly, but, like, he'd win all the fights. One move, he'd win all the fights. And like, it was a really... I was really surprised the movie was even allowed in China, but basically, it was like set during the Ming Dynasty, and he was a guy who fought the Japanese. So he's like a retired general who fought the Japanese, and he used a sword that was kind of like the Japanese samurai sword. So like the kung fu community is like, no, you cannot establish a kung fu school here because you're using a sword that's not Chinese. Unless you beat us all. And so it was like, and then of course he beats them all because all the other schools are watered down. They're not battle tested like him. His is like one move, one parry, one hit, and you beat the guy.
Yeah.
And all the other schools are like, so that was one Chinese kung fu movie that really portrayed like in maybe sword fighting or martial arts in general in a more kind of realistic way. The other one was like a guy who he invented some new style, and basically it just had 3 moves or something, and he teaches a prostitute who he later falls in love with how to do it. And so the prostitute is hiding in a boat, and he's like, okay, I have my student here, all you kung fu masters go challenge him. And he doesn't say it's a her, right? And so like they think he's an amazing kung fu master. He just teaches her one move, and like all the kung fu masters, because they're going into a confined space, they don't know what to expect. They're getting knocked left and right by that one move. But it's like that's realistic. You teach one move that works, and then use some deception in confined spaces. You're probably gonna win compared to all the dancing people who haven't like really, really fought life or death in years.
Yeah,
and so
well, I mean, a lot of the fights that you do commentary on, where there's these Wing Chun guys who never sparred.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, you can't go up against a seasoned Muay Thai fighter, never having sparred. That's just plain stupid. Yeah. And again, we're not getting like you said, you're not getting a clear picture of what Wing Chun can do, right?
Yeah.
Because and what you said about the move, like Bruce Lee said it, I do not fear the man who practiced 10,000 kicks one time. Yeah. I fear the man who practiced, was it one kick 10,000 times?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I should put a link to both these movies. Both these movies, I think.
Please do.
Sometimes I criticize Xu Xiaodong for the way he kind of goes about it in China, because China's the way it is. You can't be like that. And I think these movies, in a way, portray it, like, are trying to send a message to Chinese people in the martial arts community in a better, more subtle way. And again, I get it. I like Xu Xiaodong's personality in another way because China needs more bluntness. Chinese people are just too go around the point sometimes. But like these movies, if you watch the movie and really think about it, you'll be like, I see what it's talking about, right? And what's interesting about the second movie where the guy teaches the prostitute how to do that one move is that there is like a legit kung fu master in the movie, and it's not like he has a mystical move that can beat our like guy who has a very practical martial art. He's watching and observing for most of the movie, and at the end he's like, I see what's going on, and then he adapts his martial arts and beats the guy. Right? It's not like he has some secret technique that will always win. It's like, no, he adapts his martial art and he beats the guy. Whereas all the other martial artists never spar, they're watered down, they can't beat the guy. This guy is thinking functionally, thinking practically. Like, that's a real kung fu master, and there are those everywhere. You know, not in the mountains, fighting trees, have secret moves that always work. No, he's adapting as he's observing what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
I gotta show you. I gotta show the audience and you those two movies. They're really good movies.
Okay.
So it's like you see the evolution of cinema because I think a new generation of Chinese people are growing up realizing that unfortunately all that flying around is just, it sends a really bad message to people. And, you know, I've told stories about this in the past, but I know people who like flew out windows thinking they had the ability and then of course they didn't make it. So they were my friends, but they were part of kung fu schools I went to in China. So
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not just China either. I mean, the best action movies today, like even Western films, look at Taken with Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
That was gritty, in your face. Yeah. He's in a kitchen, and they had like a CIA agent doing the fight choreography. It's like, all right, you're in a kitchen. Best place to have a fight.
Yeah.
Here, take this tin, bang, knife, boom, you know?
Yeah.
And use what's around you. Just get it done. None of the high flying like sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Wire work or whatever, like you said, you know. But baby steps.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember when they first showed behind the scenes to The Matrix because, you know, the DVDs came out around the time when Matrix came out. And that's when DVDs, one of the extra features were, oh, you got to see behind the scenes, right? And I remember I saw the behind the scenes for The Matrix, and I remember thinking to myself, they literally had there was like 6 or 7 wires on them. It's like they're not even doing the martial arts. It's like the wires are they're like puppets, basically. I'm like, wow. It's like everyone needs to see the behind the scenes to realize that's how the fighting was made to look so elegant and cool. They weren't like actually jumping off walls and stuff like that.
No. Yeah, but I mean, when you look at like the in Japanese martial arts, you got your kata, and in Chinese martial arts, I know there's forms too, but each one is made like the basic forms are always for a situation that could in fact occur.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not made for sports fighting. These things, they're all made for like self-defense. Right?
Yeah.
It will happen in a split second, and like a real fight it's a few seconds. You don't necessarily know what's happening until it's too late, you know? And so it's kind of comparing apples to oranges when you put like someone who does traditional Kung Fu, let's say, in a ring with a Muay Thai fighter, because maybe the Kung Fu artist would not necessarily be completely incapable if he were like on the street, right?
Especially on the street fighting someone that's untrained. I think a lot of that context gets lost, especially to people who've done the martial art, because they forget, okay, a lot of these compliance drills, a lot of these katas, these taolu, these forms, you can implement a lot of these moves against someone aggressive coming at you on the street who hasn't trained. That doesn't mean you can fight a Muay Thai guy. Doesn't mean you can go into the ring. And I think there's because like when I talked to Icy Mike, I was talking about this. Like when I was younger, I fought a lot. Like just people giving me stuff, and I won. It wasn't because I was good at fighting. It was just because those people didn't know how to fight. Yeah. I just had a few more tools in my belt, right? And I won so many fights. Like one of the earliest videos I ever did, I told my friend about one time. I attributed it to Kung Fu, but actually it wasn't Kung Fu. It was the karate I did when I was in Chicago. But I did a compliance drill where what if some guy comes at you, right? You parry you parry his push, you kick him and you chop him in the neck. And I practiced that like 100 times with my dad's buddy. And then in China, it happened. The kid couldn't fight. He was just angry. He came at me. Well, suddenly, I for so many years, I forgot why I learned it that way. I was like, wow, my kung fu is just so good. No, because I practiced it in karate like 100 times. I parried, I kicked him, and then I chopped him. Like, it just came naturally. Not because I practiced 100 times for a situation that could happen on the street for an untrained person. You see, there's a context to it. Nowadays, probably because people watch UFC, very few people are just going to come at you like, oh, right?
Yeah, well,
people are probably going to fight like this now. People might actually try to go for ghetto double legs or ghetto single legs because everyone sees it now. So now you have to adapt, and the compliance drills, the Taolu and stuff have to adapt to that. And I think a lot of that is not adapting, especially the more traditional. I'm sure American Kempo is adapting. But, you know, a lot of the sort of the non-blended kind of traditional martial arts are probably potentially still stuck in a lot of their old training. Yeah. So, like, so in a way, it's like, it's a vindication, but also a criticism, a lot of the traditional methods. It's like, they plan you for specific situations very well, but now the situations are changing rapidly because people are just soaking up so much more fight knowledge, even the casual person.
Yeah. I mean, almost everybody's been, you know, like trained a little judo when they were kids, or some karate, boxing, kickboxing, even today, you know. It's not the world that it used to be, but maybe it's not wrong that these old systems are getting sort of like shaken up and get the dust off and see how it fares.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those traditional styles, they just have to. It's cool, like you said. There's something about learning an etiquette. There's something about learning a system. There's something about just learning something for the sake of learning it. But if you want to call yourself a martial art, probably just spend 20% of the time kind of thinking about new ways that people might attack and how the stuff in your system could potentially be modified or used for people who attack. Like one of my favorite videos, this guy named Sensei Ando that I'll definitely interview in the future. He was trying to adapt to Okinawan, I think it was an Okinawan karate form, but to ground fighting. So he was thinking about the moves, but instead of like in the context of here, like if you were on the ground, and that was really cool.
That's cool.
So like those were things that I think that was the right direction, and I put that video everywhere. I put it on Reddit. I sent it to BJJ. Or Jiu-Jitsu Times, and Jiu-Jitsu Times actually put up a post, and of course the Jiu-Jitsu people talk so much smack about him, but it's like, that's not the point, you know? He never claimed he was a Jiu-Jitsu expert. He's just trying to put some karate that he learned and trying to apply it, you know? Give him credit. And it's just crazy, but a lot of the forms and stuff, there's got to be moves. Like, that's what drew me to Jake Mace. As much as Jake Mace gets so much criticism, what drew me to Jake Mace was that he was trying to find kind of the function in Tai Chi. And yes, he didn't even learn a lot of the moves correctly and stuff like that, but still, he was trying. And I still give him credit for that. Like, I will never deny that Jake May really inspired me on my martial arts journey. I will never deny that. In fact, I'm saying it again here.
Yeah, no, but I do Tai Chi, and I have totally respect. I see that the movements are. I did some Kempo after the Matrix came out. Like that summer, I took Kempo, and we were doing like the 8-point block system. And I said to and it just fit. I had that muscular memory from doing Tai Chi for 3 years already. This is 2 years ago now. I still practice it to sort of like center myself, but the movements are similar. Your horse stance isn't quite as deep in Tai Chi, like in Kempo you get really like down in there, but the blocking, it's the movements are similar. You know, that's when it went click. Like in Kendo, the hips are important. In boxing, you keep your chin down. Same thing as in Kendo. It's the one, we've all got the same tool box, right? And that's why it's interesting to see how similar like all the different fighting styles are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ultimately, a lot of it merges. A lot of it really merges because the foundations. There's only a few ways to really use your body well to hit something, right? And so it's just like ultimately, they all kind of merge. And I think that's another reason why it's so fun to find obscure martial arts, because there's always something in the human mind to be like, oh, I want to see some new ways. And sometimes there are new ways that come about. You're like, that is pretty cool. Use your body as a whip in a different way than it's used to, or something like that. It's just that's what makes what we do on the channel cool too. It's just we're loving to explore and just find new stuff.
Yeah, there's a great documentary series with Frank Grillo on Netflix called was it Fight World or something like that, where he goes and he says in the intro, and it's beautiful, it's not about fighting, it's about people who fight. Okay? And when he's in Israel, obviously he goes to Krav Maga gyms and studios, whatever, and he's looking around and he says to one of the teachers, the master says, hang on, you got guys here from Palestine, you got guys here from India, from Israel, and he goes, oh yeah, we got guys here from all over the world, and each one comes from a different style. They all bring something new in. And Grillo asks him point blank, ever have any problems? He goes, no, we all get along.
Wow.
And everybody gets along, And he goes, this was good. He goes, it's hard to argue with someone when you're about to get hit in the mouth or something like that. Or like,
makes sense.
if it's easy to get along with someone who hits you in the mouth or something like that. Like, it's just like, it's. I've never been in like a gym where it got like hairy during practice,
Yeah.
Some people don't get along outside, but that's another story.
Yeah. For me, really funny story too. The only type of place where I really had any gym tension were in the places where we didn't spar. Places where you sparred, like you said. You're submitting each other in jiu-jitsu, throwing each other in judo, you're punching each other in Muay Thai or Lethwei. Very few people are going to really talk smack. In fact, like, you eliminate those people. Like, what happens is the people who give you problems. Like, one time I was trying a class at a jiu-jitsu gym, and the guy was just going too hard. We weren't even sparring yet. We were just trying a move. He was going too hard, and I yelled at him. I'm like, dude, we're trying to perfect the move right now. But, like, what happened was I just didn't train with him anymore. I just, like, moved away from him. Yeah. Right? So, like, you learn because you're sparring. People are, like, potentially going to hurt each other. You tend to learn to either protect yourself, or you learn to kind of respect everyone else, basically.
Yeah, and just you don't have to look for that conflict.
Yeah.
You don't have to go for that conflict.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, you really learn how to deal with conflict.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. No, there's no point in finding the guy who wants to hurt you while you're just drilling.
Exactly,
but
man.
Sparring is so important. Mm-hmm. It lets you let off steam at the end of practice, and it's more fun. I mean, nobody likes drills.
Yeah.
Right. Like, who likes drills? But everybody likes trying to see if what they learned today, if it works.
Yeah.
Can make it work for me. Yeah. And that surprises me too. Like, in a lot of your videos, you say, okay, this guy's obviously never sparred, and you're right. And it just, like, boggles my mind. From Kendo, like, we always spar.
Yeah.
We always spar. So it's just, it's unfortunate.
Exactly.
Everybody does.
Yeah. Dave, I think this is a really good place to stop this. And for audiences who are here, you guys can leave a question, comments, or whatever for Dave, and we'll bring them back. Great conversation, Dave.
Likewise, thanks, Jake.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's always cool to talk to martial arts of different disciplines. So, we got to talk to Dave, who does Kendo and other martial arts, mostly Kendo. And David, if this thing ever, as in this lockdown, ever blows over, I do want to make a Germany.
When it blows over.
When it blows over. I like how you think. I will make a Germany trip because I got some other people in Germany I want to visit too. So I'll totally come visit you. I'll come film your place.
Please do.
So
please do. Bonn is a great city. There's a lot of good places we can go. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Looking forward to it.
So, audience members, Fight Commentary Breakdance, if you guys do Kendo, share this with your Kendo communities, man. If there's any other Kendo people, let us know. We can talk too. In fact, Dave, a funny story. I'll send you the talk once I upload it, but I interviewed another girl who has done Kendo. So
Oh, cool.
I've had 2. I'm gonna have 2 Kendo people on my channel, which is pretty cool.
Rockin'.
Exactly.
Cool.
So, Dave, I will stop recording. We can keep talking afterwards. But
right.
everyone, thank you so much. Dave, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.